Hey, it's Jan, and in today's video I'm gonna talk to you about 5 games with the best replay value. What exactly makes you want to play through a game more than once? What makes it replayable? I will use 5 games to answer this question and analyze the replayability factors. Replay value itself is defined as the entertainment value obtained by playing a computer game more than once. Generally, there are 10 types of replay value. A branching story where the player might play again to get a different ending, adding constraints on the gameplay, character customization that will allow the player to play using a different playstyle, randomization, achievement completion, performance grading, playing again with a new perspective, the ability to replay missions, unlockable characters and items, or an atmosphere that makes the game feel like home. The first game I will be looking at is Dark Souls. It is being listed as one of the most replayable and as the most popular game to speedrun of all time. It's so unique that it created a whole genre of games, so-called Souls-likes or Soulsborne. Main reasons for that are the unique mechanics, hardcore difficulty, tough bosses, the need to explore on your own, absolutely no hand-holding, invasion multiplayer, and having to fill in the gaps in the story with your own imagination. The game is deeply mythological and philosophical. The story stands on the fight between nihilism and existentialism and uses classical archetypal stories like the hero myth. Mythology is what makes the game stand out and leaves a lot of space for interpretation of the story, so every player has a different understanding of the game. It uses the oldest primordial stories known to mankind and uses them to captivate your attention. Let's have a short look at a few examples of the mythology of Dark Souls, as it is one of the main reasons for the game's high replayability. The game uses a concept called hollowing, which could be translated into the real world as depression and losing the will to live. When you die in this game, you lose humanity and become hollow, but you can get your humanity back by making progress in the game, by killing enemy bosses and getting their souls. Then you can become human again. You can literally pick yourself up. In Dark Souls, you are the chosen undead who is supposed to decide the fate of the world. As you make your way through the game, you defeat stronger and stronger enemies and bosses who are meant to be a test of your worth, the strength of your soul. The final boss, Lord Gwyn, is a direct representation of Thor from Norse mythology. When you kill him, you prove your soul is strong enough to prolong the Age of Fire, and you do that by burning yourself. But you can decide not to do it and let the fire fade. Your guides in the game are the primordial serpents Kingseeker Frampt and Darkstalker Kath. In the original translations they are world serpents, therefore are direct link to Jörmungandr in Norse mythology. Together they represent the dragon eating its tail, Ouroboros, the symbol of eternal recurrence and rebirth. In Jungian psychology, also a symbol of individuation and becoming who you are, through continuous ridding yourself of what you are not and sacrificing your imperfect old self like a snake shedding its skin. But enough about mythology. The point is, every mythological story stimulates the deepest psychological structures of our characters, so it inherently becomes popular. The finest modern examples of this are the Avengers movie franchise and Dark Knight, for Joker is the same archetype as Loki. Dark Souls is extremely rewarding gameplay. When you have been trying to be the boss for 2 hours straight and you finally defeat him, you literally gain his power through consuming his soul. The same concept is used in Skyrim, as Dragonborn consumes the soul of the dragon. That's another mythological concept. When you defeat the unknown, you become stronger than your fear. The bosses are sometimes so incredibly tough, it could take hours even for a skilled player to kill someone like the Knight Artorias. The game is a lot like real life. It throws almost impossible challenges at you and you have to adapt and overcome them to move forward. And that is what makes the boss fights so rewarding. Dark Souls is, quite obviously, a challenge-oriented RPG. You can play using any tactics you like and choose multiple approaches to finish the game. There is also a perfect level design. The world is entirely interconnected. You can get from any place in the world to any other place by foot. So you can descend into the darkness and fight literal death, and then go back up to the godly Anor Londo. It will take you a lot of time, but you can do it. Then there is the invasion and summoning system. You can summon a friendly player on a similar level to help you with the boss fight. If you are playing offline, you can summon NPCs like the Solaire of Astora. Players and NPCs also invade your game and try to kill you. It will help you to get tougher and get good at the game. After you get some experience, you can also invade into the world of other players and bring suffering to their life as you murder them and take their souls. The game has also a messaging system that allows you to leave written messages on the ground for other players. You can throw them and write "Imminent treasure, try jumping" to encourage them to step into a trap, or you can help them and show them a secret path or an illusory wall. The game is full of secrets, and some of them get unlocked only after you have finished the game. That's right, there is a new game plus. With each new game, the difficulty increases, but you get to keep the items you found. Pretty much everything said about Dark Souls 1 also applies to Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne, created by Hidetaka Miyazaki, who used to be an office worker for Oracle, but thankfully followed his dream of becoming a game developer and created the world of Dark Souls. Another game I will be looking at is The Binding of Isaac. Binding of Isaac is a game created by Edmund Macmillan. He created it right after Super Meat Boy because he wanted to try something smaller using procedural generation, but he didn't anticipate how successful the game will become. Isaac is a top-down dungeon crawler with procedurally generated levels. Randomness plays a huge factor in this game. Almost everything is generated procedurally, random items, levels, enemies. Only the bosses stay consistent. The theme of the game is very Catholic, as Edmund himself had Catholic upbringing and talks about the morbidity of the Catholic symbols he experienced in his childhood. You can find mini-bosses in the game created after each of the deadly sins: gluttony, greed, lust, etc. People wonder, Edmund says, why there is a lot of violence in my work. I grew up with a picture of a bloody dying man who is suffering for everybody, a martyr, and it's the whole idea of self-sacrifice. Your exalted God, your God, rips his body to shreds for the good of the world. Violence becomes holy. And in a lot of ways, in the Bible and Catholicism, violence and gore is considered holy. You drink the blood of Christ, you eat his flesh. How does that not come into me? There is recurring themes in everything in my work, and they are usually things where I think it's so odd that people think they're gross. I tend to focus on the fetal stages of birth, life and death, but mostly birth. The development process and dying and decay. It's life, but it's these parts that are interesting. After and before, the development and the decay. Those are the mysterious things. Guts. The stuff that's inside, that sort of stuff. Religion and sexuality and genitals. Before developing his previous game, Super Meat Boy, he planned to commit a career suicide with the game Cunt, which is centered well around genitals. So it comes as no surprise that some of the levels of Isaac take place in the womb. But even then, the graphics are widely considered to be cute because the game features big-eyed enemies and characters, and everything is hand-drawn. Recurring theme in Edmund's work is a defenseless main hero who makes the best of the situation he finds himself in. So, Isaac uses his tears and power-ups he finds, Super Meat Boy relies on his precise movement, and Basement Collection features also a number of child heroes. Isaac is a clear goal: to get away from his mother, whom he fights in the final level. The story is inspired by the biblical story of Binding of Isaac. At some point in Isaac's youth, his father Abraham took him to Mount Moriah. At God's command, Abraham was to build a sacrificial altar and sacrifice his son Isaac upon it. After he had bound his son to the altar and drawn his knife to kill him, at the very last moment an angel of God prevented Abraham from proceeding. Instead, he was directed to sacrifice a nearby ram that was stuck in thickets. The game features a beautiful soundtrack by Danny Baranovsky, who also created the original soundtrack for Super Meat Boy. Replay value of Isaac is pretty much infinite. There are multiple endings, as each game is completely different, depending on the randomized seed. The items influence your playstyle, and you can also choose either holy or satanic buffs. The items and their effects are obscure, so players had to create an extensive database on the game's wiki pages. This trait is shared with Dark Souls. You can also unlock new characters with unique starting gifts. The price to fun ratio here is insane. Another game I will be looking at is Fallout New Vegas. Fallout New Vegas is a post-apocalyptic action RPG. Same as the other games, you have a very clear goal right from the start. You have to find the man who stole a chip with crucial information from you, and then shoot you in the head. Unbeknownst to him, you survived, all thanks to Mr. House, who had his spy robot look after you and dig you up from the grave. The game lets you choose your perks and character traits, same as any usual RPG. But I dare to say this model is way more sophisticated than take Skyrim. For example, if you choose the Black Widow perk and apply as a female character, you can have sex with the man who shot you after you meet him again, and then kill him in his sleep. There are countless possibilities. You can put no points into your intelligence and charisma and go through the game like an absolute idiot, who gets also treated like one. You can play it as a stealth game, where you max out your lockpicking and hacking skills and turn robots to your side. You can choose to make a no-killing run, where you solve everything diplomatically by using your charisma, or just get through the game guns blazing. Exploration is greatly rewarded, and there is so much to explore. You can become a sort of a detective for people, finding what happened to their families, who stole from them, etc. An early game quest comes to mind. Boone is a night guard in Novak Town, and his wife has gone missing. Later you find out that the local hotel owner sold her to the slavers. Boone then takes justice into his own sniper sights. This quest alone has multiple input and output scenarios. If you do a bad detective work and find a random person whom then Boone kills, he will pretty much tell you to go fuck yourself and never show up there again. But if you bring evidence, then he will become your companion for the rest of the game. And having a skilled sniper by your side is really useful in the wasteland. There are sometimes bizarre but incredibly memorable quests, like when you save the underground ghouls whose dream is to travel to the moon. So help them fix a space rocket and fulfill their destiny. There is an incredible amount of interesting side quests with cannibal hotel owners, corruption, hookers, hitmen and street gang wars. But the most important part of the game is the story. There is a war going on, and it was the
war never changes,
which the Fallout became famous for. You also have to constantly make moral decisions that boost or lower your karma. Karma then unlocks more specific quests and companions. You can also join various factions like the NCR, Kaiser's Legion, Boomers, Brotherhood of Steel, Omertas, White Glove Society, Great Khans, Mr. House himself, or just stay independent. Each of these choices give you unique advantages in the story progression. Kaiser's Legion is a tyrannical faction. They are famous for using Roman torture methods, like crucifixion of those who defy them, and they prefer throwing spears and bare fists. NCR is a democratic, military-based faction aiming to liberate the wasteland. And Mr. House wants to build a robot army to establish order, and he tries to preserve mankind with technology. Each of the factions has its own political ideology, and you can support or destroy either of them. Your decisions will influence the final ending you will get. Another massive source of replayability is the modding community. There are thousands of mods that will completely change the gameplay, graphics, add new quests, guns, companions and locations. The atmosphere also greatly contributes to the replayability. I find myself returning to the game about every other year to experience the New Vegas atmosphere once again. Another game we will be looking at is Super Meat Boy. Super Meat Boy is a successor to the famous 2008's hardcore retro platformer Meat Boy. The player controls Meat Boy, a sort of a boy with no skin, attempting to rescue his girlfriend, Bandage Girl, from the evil Dr. Fetus. The game is known for its hardcore difficulty and an insane number of retro Easter eggs, featured in more than 300 levels. The juicy and energetic soundtrack completes the fast-paced feel of the game, as each of the areas has its own visual and audio style, along with the traps and enemies getting tougher and tougher. You begin in the forest, which is pretty much a tutorial area, where you will, for sure, learn how to control the game. You will also come to contact with the basic traps, and you learn that they have different levels of difficulty: saws, moving saws, rotating saws, etc. Each of the levels has a dark version, which is simply a hardcore version of the same level, along with a darker version of the awesome soundtrack. There are also area bosses you have to defeat in quotes, because you're defenseless. You just get away or let them take themselves out. As you progress through the various levels, you end up in the end, an area with a strong dystopian feel, and the final boss battle. After that, you unlock the Bandage Girl as a playable character. There are multiple playable characters, which you unlock by finishing the secret glitch levels and by collecting bandages placed across the levels in various hard-to-get locations. The game has a very clean feel and many details that support the immersion. Squirrels run away from you and get killed by the saws. You leave a trail of meat juice behind, and when you finish the level, you can replay all your attempts at beating the level along with all of your deaths. The story is short and simple, but well implemented. For example, the area boss whom you try to help in the second area comes to your rescue at the end as a friend. Overall, the game is very friendly and feels like home, and that is a trait that many of the games I list here share. In Dark Souls, it's the Firelink Shrine and the bonfires you sit at and refill your Estus healing potions that you inevitably emotionally attach to. The game feel is also an important aspect of replayability. The retro atmosphere has a strong nostalgic feeling attached to it. The main premise of the story is the same as in mythology, saving the princess, and it mirrors Edmund's feelings to some extent. And as he says,
I wanted to have his girlfriend kind of be more than a love interest, and I wanted to play up the idea that he needs her, like that she's what completes him, like not just emotionally but physically as well, and that's why she's Bandage Girl. So she's kind of like the outer shell over Meat Boy that protects him, and that's why he needs her. He needs her back, not only because he loves her, but because that's what completes him.
The main factor of replayability in this game lies in the achievement completion and performance grading. The faster you complete a level, the better your grade will be. Your best times are recorded into a global player database, so you can compare your skill and strive for the perfect level time. The last game I will be looking at is Hotline Miami. Hotline Miami is a pixel art top-down shoot 'em up full of visceral gore. It was made with Game Maker Studio, which is often wrongly considered to be an immature game engine, but some great games like Spelunky, Undertale, Nidhogg, Hyper Light Drifter or Crashlands were also made in it. The game is centered around traversing the levels as fast as possible. That is supported by showing you how efficient in killing others you were at the end of each level. And similar to Super Meat Boy, you get a grade. In Super Meat Boy it's A+ or nothing, in Hotline Miami it's A+ through F-. The scoring system is based on your actions and playstyles. The most rewarded playstyle is the Invisible Man, where you stay undetected the whole level. Then you have combo-centered playstyles like Combo Master for 13+ combo, Door Master for killing with door kicks, or Chiropractor by mercy killing undead enemies on the ground. Your best time scores are stored in a global player database, so you can also compare your efficiency and skill with other players. The soundtrack of Hotline Miami is one of the best I've heard perhaps in any game. The game pretty much introduced me to the genre of retro synthwave, with artists like Carpenter Brut, Moon, Perturbator or Jasper Byrne. Each of the levels uses a unique soundtrack, which you will no doubt remember, as you will repeat the level multiple times before you get it right without dying. The gore in the game is very prominent. You leave a trail of bleeding bodies behind you, and they stay there when you return to the level, so you can really feel the message the game is trying to convey. You can execute your enemies, slit their throats, do the Only God Forgives and Watchmen move and kill them with a boiling oil, bash their heads in, use a samurai sword to cut them into pieces, or make them into a bloody mush with a double-barreled shotgun. The main hero, Jacket, is able to wear masks that give him special powers, like the ability to kick doors to kill, or to one-punch kill enemies and dogs. There are also collectibles that unlock a secret ending. The story is told through a number of trippy cutscenes, where you meet with the terrorists wearing animal masks, who are manipulating you and blackmailing you into doing all the things you do, the ultra-violence, killing members of the mafia, and cleaning a whole lot of other underground groups, of course for the benefit of the terrorists. There is also the rescuing the girl element of the story, same as in Dark Souls, Super Meat Boy and Half-Life 2. The story is inspired by the 2011 Drive, where the main hero wears a scorpion jacket, kills people to defend his girl and her son, and then drives into the sunset. You can find the scorpion jacket as an Easter egg in Jacket's flat. So, the replay value here is derived from the achievement completion. There is even an achievement called Achievement Whore that unlocks only when you complete every single one. Then from performance grading, unlockable characters and weapons, definitely the game feel and atmosphere, and also from the ability to replay missions. I found myself replaying certain levels purely for fun and for the awesome soundtrack. And that's it for today's video. Hit that subscribe button for more content like this, and leave a like if you feel like I provided some value to you. See you next time.